Hello, I wanted to record the Fuel presentation from March, all about family values. This was a really interactive discussion, and I will encourage you to do the same through this process with a friend or your spouse or a whole group of people. It would be a great time to have discussion about. So when I ask you to pause and have a discussion, please actually do it. It's not going to be that valuable if you just listen to me gab about it. Instead, I really want you to think about what your family values are. So, when I say family values, I'm actually getting the idea from this book. It's called Raising Passionate Jesus Followers. And I read this book a few years ago and I really enjoyed the first part. The second part didn't really hit well with me. And I'm actually summarizing a lot of the ideas from it. So, if you are interested in learning more, feel free to check out this book. And this is where kind of this goals, values, ideas are coming from. So when I say a goal or a value, I'm sort of talking about them in two ways. So the goal is really the ultimate outcome that we hope to achieve, and our values are guiding principles that help shape how we live and hopefully get to that goal. So for example, the goal for us raising our kids is that they love God and they love others well. We want both those things, right? A very lofty goal. In the book that I just showed you, their goal would be to raise passionate Jesus followers. Your goal might look similar to that or might be totally different, but it's basically the outcome of what you want your kids to be. The most important thing to you in raising your child, what would they be? The values, though, are like specific characteristics that we want our children to have. So, for instance, like honesty, hard work, academics, sportsmanship, flexibility, all of these things that we probably as parents think like, I really want that. I want all of these things, right? All of these things sound helpful and are helpful to you, but we can only focus on so many things. So remember, this is not just like moral values. This goes beyond that and is more practical and hands-on. And so I'm going to show you a list in a little while, or I'll post it so you can see it. But basically, there's a lot of different values that we can have, but it's not realistic for us to have all of them. So, for example, as well, when we talk about values, my family growing up had the value of hard work, and they would instill this value in us in a really fun way where we'd have large work days where we would be like cleaning out a pond or raking leaves because I grew up in the woods, so there was leaves to rake even now. I'm sure my parents have leaves to rake. And we would work all day long, and it was just exhausting and felt awful in the moment. We complained, we whined, there were four of us. But now my all of my siblings and I are very, very hard workers. It's important to each of us. And my parents really did an awesome job instilling that into us. It was very difficult for them, I'm sure. It was difficult for me. But when they knew the why, that it was important to them that we would be hard workers, then they were able to press through the difficulty of parenting. And so goals can feel very out of reach. So here's a quote from that book, Raising Passionate Jesus Followers. When your goal is big and lofty, it can feel out of reach. But when you break it down into values like kindness, honesty, and perseverance, it becomes practical and attainable. These are almost like stepping stones to getting to our goal. You can't measure really well. It's not a measurable goal to say that your child would love God and love others well. But you can measure how honest they are. You can measure how kind they are. Have they done something kind in the last day? Those are things that are measurable. And so the other thing to note is that values should not replace a goal. So we want to keep the order in the right order. We don't want our value to become more important than our end goal. For example, it just, you think about instilling a financial awareness or financial responsibility. Well, we want our kids to be know how to use their money, to budget well, but we also don't want them to be greedy or stingy or hoarding their money. And so we have to put that in the right place and the right order. In addition to that, every single family's goals are going to be unique. Now, we might have some similar ones because we have some similar values at Grace Point, but we also might be totally different because we all are raising the kids that God has given us. So, for instance, in our family, we really like to prioritize flexibility or adaptability. And so, for us, that means that if we're going to go on a trip to North Carolina, we're probably going to drive. If we're going on a trip to Canada, we're probably going to drive because that allows our children to be more flexible. When we go on vacation with a family or friends, sometimes we look for opportunities for them to be, our kids to be a little uncomfortable. Maybe they have to sleep on the floor. Maybe they have to wait longer than what they had thought, because this is creating flexibility in them. Now, you might be thinking, I don't care if my kids are flexible like that. That's fine. That's our family value. And each family is going to have unique values. So I'm going to kind of walk you through the process we took at Grace Point, and you can either do it as an individual, or hopefully you're with a group or with your spouse, and you can talk through these steps. So first, look at the handout and you're going to see a lot of different values. Just right off the bat, put a star next to one or two that really jump out at you. After that, choose a total of 5 that you feel very strongly you want to prioritize. And this is as an individual, not as a couple if you're together. Then discuss as a couple or as a group why you chose those. There's some questions here that can inspire you. And then we'll explore the how in a few minutes. But something that's really helpful as you are choosing is this quote: "A value is not simply something you prefer, but something you are willing to make significant sacrifices to ensure." A good example of this for me personally is tidiness. Would I love to have a beautiful, tidy home that magical fairies clean up? Yes. Am I willing to make significant sacrifices to ensure that my home is tidy? No. Now, it's a little tricky because my husband, he wants to have a tidy home. So we have to reconcile that and figure out how can we keep that in the right place and instill that value, even if it's not my value and it's a value I can learn. So really think about, as you're looking at it, ask yourself, would I make significant sacrifices to make this happen? Yes or no? And that will guide your time. Pause the video here and actually do it. It's not going to help you if you don't actually do it. Did you pause it? Okay, now we can move on to how to actually do this. We want to strategically plan and be intentional about the way we're raising our kids. And so how do we do this? Well, what stuck out to you? Forgot to remove that slide, but we need to strategically plan. So there are 3 different ways that we can strategically plan, and you'll see this on the other part of your handout. First, you want to look seasonally. So that's about a 3 to 4 month range. And you can map out 1 to 2 things you can do in the next couple months. I'm going to give you some examples in a minute. After strategically planning, we want to seize those small moments. So these are habits that we can build, and this is habits in 2 ways. Habits that you want daily, weekly, monthly, or also brainstorming ideas that maybe you even put on your fridge so that you can quickly reference and quickly incorporate them. So if you have 5 minutes and you're like, what should we do? Oh, I could sit here and scroll on my phone, or I could take one of my ideas that I had developed. And so those are sort of 2 different flip sides of the coin. Let me show you some examples of these. So these are your healthy habits, or your habits that incorporate that. So if you wanted to encourage good communication, let me see if I can get rid of this. Then what are some habits you could have? Well, here's some ideas I came up with. Maybe you also have ideas. And guess what? If this is one of your values, you can steal my ideas. Daily, you could give your kids choices. Choices offer opportunity for communication. I can model communication by telling them when I'm upset or what I'm feeling. And then I can encourage them to vocalize what they think. And so this comes out in our family all the time. When a child has an issue with another child, instead of going over and solving it, I try to say, "It upset me when," and then my kids will fill in the blank. And then as they get older, they start to say, "It upset me when." Now they often need you to still intervene and help, but this empowers your child to communicate rather than you communicating what they feel. I digress. Weekly, when an issue arises, you could take a few minutes to model thinking out loud. How would you solve that problem? How are you feeling? And then lastly, monthly, maybe you have a family meeting. This could also go in the weekly category, but this gives an opportunity for communication to happen. Another example, neatness. Have your daily, you could have your child do one chore. You could have a cleaning time and ask your kids to help. Afterwards, try to do something fun as a family. Maybe this is a time that you set aside like an hour or two and you really deep clean or tackle your whole house. Well, bring your kids in on the fun of that and have an opportunity to celebrate. And then lastly, each month, maybe you go on a hunt around your house looking for things and you ask your kids to as well. Give them clipboards, they'll love it. And they write down all the projects they find that need to take place. It's allowing your child to have ownership of the neatness. These are just examples. So, how could we strategically plan for monthly? I want you to think small. So, if, for example, I love reading, I want my children to love reading. Now, I could put for April, instill a love of reading. Well, that's not measurable. Let's try to think of things we can do. Something as simple as hanging up a bookshelf so that I can have books around my kids. In May, I could take my daughter to the library, just the two of us, so that we can really explore the books instead of having babies and toddlers pulling us in different directions. And then in June, I want to show my kids that I like reading. So I could try to find time that will have me reading just my own stuff while they're there. Another example for maybe hospitality, this is a little shout out for Joan. I could bring my child to the store and have them pick out special napkins for when people are coming over, and then encourage them to set the table. I could sign up to be a greeter with my child at Grace Point. You are more than welcome to serve with your child. That is an awesome thing to be doing. And then lastly, maybe I could ask my child if there's someone they would like to invite over, give them the opportunity to have a voice. So you guys maybe take some time and talk together. Maybe you can pick something on your list and talk about it together as a group or as a couple. And then after that, I want you to fill out that worksheet. Maybe just choose one of your values and come up with ideas for each of those. You could use the worksheet for each value and then take some time every 2 to 3, 4 months to evaluate how you are addressing those values. Because what is really true is that we only have so much time. I actually looked it up, I Googled it. From the day your baby is born until they turn 18 is 6,574 days. Sounds like a lot, but it's also so few. And we know we still have relationship beyond those 18 years. But even if you just take the first 10 years, those are such pivotal times in our kids' lives. And so really looking at what are we doing each and every day? How can I break this down for myself so that it is so small, but yet little tiny building blocks that allow the values to be instilled deeply in my child? I pray for you guys often. It is not easy raising kids. I'm right there with you, but it is so worth it. If you have questions about this or you want to chat more about family values, I am all ears and I'm happy to chat. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you actually paused and did the work. And if you didn't, here's your little plug now. Do it now.